And we're finally back with the next vlog for my game. I don't have a name for this game yet. You will see though when we get to the Unity project. It's probably gonna be a little bit of a longer video today. When we get into the Unity project, you're probably gonna see it's called like Project Lucifer or something. That's not gonna be the name of the game. It's just I needed a project name, so I named it Lucifer. Why Lucifer? Because it's similar to Diablo. Something cool, something like that. So I had some insights, and I think I have a much clearer direction, like where I want to take the game now. That's the biggest upside. The downside is I wasted a lot of time creating assets, probably 3 weeks, 6 hours a day or something like that, creating modular assets, which I'm probably not gonna use because I'm taking a completely different approach, which we're gonna talk about why also. But I just wanted to show off these assets because it just feels so bad that I've created all these assets, so probably never anyone gonna see except for me. So let's show this off and let's talk about it. Let's talk about some problems with them. So here we are in Substance Painter. Oh, there we are in Substance Painter. And here are some assets. And they look pretty cool, honestly. When you zoom in, I think it's pretty decent details. These aren't fully painted yet. I quit mid-painting. I see there's a lot of white assets, a lot of things which aren't the correct colors and everything. But that's weird. I think there's some things that I will definitely reuse here. Like I really like the hands here that are holding the pillars up here. There's some like nice details I could maybe bring over. The problem with there's a lot of problems. First of all, I wanted to bake everything. I don't want to have a million textures because that's gonna create a million draw cards at the same time. That's what you can see. I only have 4 textures, 4 4K textures, which the idea was to bake them into a big atlas. Then of course, as you can see, there's like a pillar missing. Like, why is this missing? This is because I can just mirror things. Like, everything that I can mirror is not in Substance Painter. Because if I mirror it, it becomes a problem when I bake mesh maps. Which is essentially... So, what have I done there? I probably need to explain, like, what is this? Substance Painter is a program where you paint your assets. Like, where you paint textures on top of 3D models. The thing is, in order to create a model in the right way, to make it look good, you have to create first a high poly version, which has all the details, and then you have to create a low poly version. Low poly version is what you're gonna use in the game, which is a very, very simple version. And then basically you take the high poly version, and it's like you paint those details onto, you kind of fake the details onto the actual 3D. This is what bake mesh mapping is. It's just creating a normal map. A normal map is a map which has like small crevices, like if you look at this, like this little thing. Oh wow, this is very big. This little thing right here, this is just done with the mesh map, and it will look okay. It won't even look that good, but you can see these, for instance. These things are done with done by faking height, for instance. And there's a lot of things, like the things between here. Between these bricks here aren't really there isn't really any distance here. It's just faking it, and that's basically what you're doing. That's why this takes such an insane amount of time to create all these assets, because having to create all these bricks are basically hand sculpted all these bricks by hand, and I've created low poly versions and everything. As you can see, there's a shit ton of assets. There's like 400 assets or something. It's insane. Yeah, and okay, so the problem with this, first of all, when you do this, you can do it like this, and it would probably work. But the main reason I'm gonna change is because I want the assets to be more granular, more modular, so that I can reuse them in many ways, and also so that I can do some physics with them, which is something we're gonna talk on later on. Why I want to do that. So for instance, one of the problems here, for instance, this brick wall here. It's essentially, it's taking up a lot of texture space. I don't want to go into the textures now, because if I click at the textures, I'm already loaded like 8 GB. This is another problem with this approach. Like, when you have all these assets in one big file, Substance Painter basically can't handle this much texturing. It really can't. Like, now it's like 8 GB. If I go into one of these textures, it's gonna run up to like 95% of my total memory. It's gonna start reading from disk and stuff. It's gonna slow down the computer way too much. So what you want to do, of course, is reuse textures. But what I could do here, which is going to be the next approach I'm going to show you in Unity, is that I'm going to take, instead of having one big texture like this, I'm just going to take 5 different unique bricks, or 6 or something like that, and then I'm just gonna copy paste those bricks instead, and that makes me save up a lot of texture space, and it makes it so that if you go close, like if you go really close on these bricks, they start looking kind of shit, but if you go really close on the bricks that I'm gonna show you soon in the new version of how I rethought this, they're gonna look pretty good, because I only have 5 bricks, so I can take up a much more texture space than I can do with this approach. And also, it's hassle when I want to reuse, for instance. Here I have these bricks, and here I also have these bricks, and I have these bricks in many places. But here, since it's another shape, I need to use... Essentially, I use the same high poly mesh, but I'm using it on another texture, which makes even more texture space, and even more texture space. And after a while, you start taking up a silly amount of texture space for the levels, for them to look decently good. Here you can see the same textures again, same texture again, same texture again, same texture again on this side. This other wall, same texture here, same texture here. And okay, here you can see it a little bit clearer when there's light. The thing that I'll talk about that I'm this is just a flat thing going on, but because of the normal mapping and the height mapping and everything, it looks like there's some distance in between these bricks, which there really isn't. It's just an illusion. Yeah, I also wanted to show off this asset just because I thought it was a little bit cute. These are the stairs leading up here. Looking a little bit. Here's this guy. There was supposed to be like a shrine, like a sacrificial, not a shrine, a sacrificial altar or something. Just thought that this asset looked pretty cool. I haven't finished texturing it, and I won't ever finish texturing it, but I thought it looked pretty cool. Also, there was supposed to be these horns here, this devil horns or something resting here. There's supposed to be like the signs of some ritual trying to summon a demon or something here. That didn't work out or something like that. That was the idea, at least, behind that asset. This is supposed to be the sacrificial. Of course, it's going to be copied like this. Imagine this being copied on this edge and this edge and this edge. Then you understand what this asset is. That's the sacrificial altar there. There's a lot of small like candles and stuff. I didn't just started texturing these. I haven't finished texturing any of these. But yeah, that's the approach. And then I thought about a lot of things. Let's jump into Unity and I can explain the approach that I took in the end. So, let's have a look in Unity. I'm going to explain what's going on, the decisions that I made and everything, and why I made them. So, here we got the room. And this room, why I'm so excited about this, because I want to make this procedurally generated, right? And it's very easy to do now. Here we have the room, and we have some sliders. So first of all, these are the sliders for size. For instance, we can make it a little bit taller if we want to, or we can make it a little bit, move the roof up and down. We can also, for instance, make it smaller in size, or we can make it bigger in size. It's gonna, you know, join with the room here, though. But it's very easy to just change these sliders, and it makes it very easy to make a procedurally generated rooms. Of course, it's going to be more assets. These are very simple. There's going to be things on the walls. It's going to look quite differently, honestly, because now it's lit like it's complete daylight, and that's not how it's going to be lit. It's not going to be lit from above like it is right now. It's going to be lit by candles and stuff inside there. So it's going to look more like it's looking on this side than what it's going to look like this. It's going to look more like this, but with candles on it. And the candles are going to be, or the torches or whatever, it's going to be lighting up the rooms. So, how I've created this? I've created this with just a couple of assets, a couple of small assets like this, which are, if you look at the texturing, you can get some insanely, in my opinion, cool details, because you can zoom up so close on this, because we don't need to waste much texture space. Like, I can have 1 2K texture for all these bricks, and that gives me enough room to give insanely good details on everything. Like, everything is very detailed. Same with the wood there. Can go up and we can see like almost the individual fibers of the wood. It's very nicely detailed, I think, at least. And then we just repeat these assets and copy them and mirror them and do stuff and manipulate them with code so that they look very good. And we can see here with the room that this generates essentially 3 meshes. One for the bricks, one for the pillars here, and one for the wall bricks. It's essentially 3 assets. right now they're a little bit high in, so I'm going to work on that, of course, and reduce that. Now, if you see the wall bricks, it's like 64,000 triangles. That's probably fine. I mean, it's just one material. It might work. I would say the pillars are a little bit high with like 100,000 triangles. Probably can cut this down to like 10. Something like that. Because these right now are not just cylinders. They're probably just going to be cylinders when I update these assets. But essentially what I did here, just to save on time, I just took a high poly asset and just used the decimate modifier in Blender. If you know Blender, you know what I talk about. Else it's fine. If you have no idea what I'm talking about. So it's a little bit high. We're gonna work on that also. But why did I want to do this? Well, this has to do with the actual game. So now we talked about the technical side. Now we're gonna talk about the actual game. One more thing that I forgot to mention. I'm using HDRP. I said last time I'm not gonna use HDRP, but then I went back on that because it just looks so much better, honestly, in HDRP. When you compare HDRP to the standard render pipeline, it's hard to go back, honestly, when you've started using HDRP. So I'm gonna use HDRP. Also, I want to show you how this is the model that I showed you last time. Like, get a sense of scale. I realize it's kind of hard to understand, like, what scale is this room? How big is this room compared to the character model? And this is about the size. So this would be a very, very small room, like something that can be used like a crypt or a catacomb or a dungeon or something like that. But it's probably going to be much, much wider rooms when you get into like a cathedral or something like that. If I use the assets, for instance, or if I reuse some of the assets that I showed earlier, it's probably going to be much wider spaces. So that's the character. So why did I go for this approach? The main reason for this is that I started thinking about the skills. I think we're going to talk about the skills first. So one of the first skill trees that I'm going to create is something that's going to be like a druid, geomancer kind of thing. I don't know exactly what to call it, but the idea is basically that it can manipulate the environment around you. If you've seen Naruto, for instance, when the Hokage like transmutes wood into something else, into a tree that can join, you know that thing, the kind of geomancer thing, can manipulate rocks and stuff like that. And I thought it would be so cool, and something that I haven't seen in any game. Let me know if you've seen that in any game, by the way. Is if you could have, for instance, a geomancer thing. First of all, this is a thing that I've seen in games. First of all, the first skill that I'm going to create is going to be called Boulder. It's a geomancer skill. It takes materials, so you need to have materials for this skill. So there needs to be bricks that it can create stone out. Like, there needs to be stone in the level for you to be able to create a boulder. Then it essentially saps all these stones up from nearby and creates a boulder out of this, and then you shoot it in a direction, and that boulder can then go through walls, so you can create your own way through the dungeon. Of course, it's going to be some kind of way of limiting the use of this, so that you can't open every wall, or there has to be some kind of incentive not to open every wall, because else everyone will just shoot open every wall always. If they're a geomancer, then they can do that. So it's going to be like, either it's going to be like difficult enemies or things that you can find, so you need to be a little bit careful with it, or there needs to be like a limited number of uses or something, or some mana or something that you don't want to spend. There has to be some kind of incentive or some kind of limiting factor to that ability. But basically the idea is you can blast that through the wall, and it's going to use real-time physics in Unity to show you how the wall falls down. And then these bricks that you've then left on the ground can be used for another ability, which is going to be called Tornado. So Tornado just spins around, and it picks up everything that's on the ground, essentially. And all those things spin around, and they hit the enemies around that tornado. So the more things that are on the ground, the more things are gonna be sucked up on the tornado, and the tornado only deals damage if there's things that it sucks up, essentially. That I thought was a really cool combo. Like, first you use one thing to maybe blast a hole in a wall to get some bricks, or maybe you shoot this on a pillar to topple it over, and then you use the parts of it. It's kind of a combo skill, and that's what I wanted. Like, I thought about how can I create spells and effects that are interesting. Like, if you have a fireball is kind of boring in a way. It's essentially like you shoot a projectile. It could be anything. Like, essentially in most games, things could catch fire, for instance, and they could be burning and stuff like that. And that's a little bit cool. Then it's a little bit more interesting. But if it's just a fireball that just essentially subtracts a amount of the HP from the enemy, it's a little bit boring, honestly. So I wanted every skill to matter a little bit. I didn't want to just flood the game with skills. I wanted every skill to be a skill where you think a little bit about the use about the skill. So if you have a thing like boulder, you're gonna think, do I want to shoot it there? Do I want to open that wall? Maybe there's more enemies behind that wall, so maybe I'll alert those enemies. There's some thinking there. And maybe if I shoot this turn, I shoot this boulder. Next turn, because it's going to be turn-based still, I'll use tornado on that path, and maybe I can kind of calculate that the enemies will be about the position where they would then be hit by the tornado on my next turn. And there's some kind of planning and some strategy involved then. And then there's going to be other skills, of course. I thought about on this like Geomancer Druid theme. I think I'm gonna call it something like Druid or something, because it's going to be like manipulation of wood and stuff like that also in this. But another skill that I thought would be pretty cool is basically you take the bricks from a wall or something and you add it to your shield. So basically you use that skill and it's like reinforces your shield in some kind of way, so you get some kind of benefit. And of course also when these bricks are sucked out from a wall, they can then later be used on a tornado skill or something like that. And I also thought about like maybe having a skill which takes the wall bricks on two sides and just slams them together. Like if you're on some narrow hallway, you can drag everything in and it will deal damage based on how many bricks that are left or something like that. I don't know exactly how to do the calculations, but that's what I'm thinking about the first skill tree. I think it's kind of unique. I think it's a cool skill tree, but it's going to be other skill trees. So what I've thought up so far is that there's going to be 3 races and there's going to be a couple of skill trees, and depending what race you select, you will have access to different skill trees, and also you will have different penalties, and you will have different benefits of selecting that. So first of all, there's human. Human is the thing which is the character which is the most open, can be anything essentially. You have the upside of being a human is that you can select skills from any tree. You're not limited by any tree. There's no tree you can't select from. But the downside is you have no other upsides. Like you have no benefits or anything. The second class is going to be the half demon. Half demon have a couple of restrictions. First of all, they can't select skills from the holy tree, which is going to be like the paladin kind of tree. They can't select skills from there. But they have a couple of upsides to make up for this. First of all, they can see in complete darkness, which means that it also ties into their skill set. For instance, demons have a skill which turns out all the lights, for instance, in the room, which makes human opponents not being able to see you. So if there's human in that room, they can't see you, which probably something like reduce their hit chance to almost nothing, and you have a very high chance of hitting them, for instance. It's very good against human targets, but it's not going to work against like undead or other demons, because they can see in the dark, and undead have like, some kind of undead vision. I don't know exactly how it works, because they have no eyes, so I don't know how they see, but essentially they don't need light to see, is the idea. So demons are very good against human targets. Then the last race is going to be some kind of holy race. It's not going to be angels, I don't think. It's going to be more like some kind of I don't know exactly. I'm thinking like the moon godlikes or something like that in the Pathfinder universe. They look a little bit different, have maybe a little bit different skin, different eyes and stuff like that, but they're not super different from a human. But their limitation is that they can't select from the demon tree, but they can select from the human branches, which is going to be martial, which is things like barbarian, whirlwind and stuff like that. That's one of the skill trees. Then the Geomancer Druid thing that I talked about is going to be one skill tree. They have access to that also. And then they have access to the holy tree, which is more paladin-like. Like you have shield charge, they have seal, for instance, like in Diablo, you can hit a target many times, and stuff like that. They have things which are good against undead, and they have things which counters demons also. They counter things that counter undead and things that counter demons. So for instance, they have one of their spells is like Holy Light, which gives them a light above them, and it makes them able to see, or it illuminates the room. So even if a demon casts a spell which turns out all the lights in the room, you can still see without problem. and stuff like that. So that's going to be the different skill trees, and that's about what I thought up. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a longer video, but then I realized I could put everything together, say everything in a very short amount of time, turns out. So yeah, hopefully there's going to be a update much quicker. The thing that I'm working on right now is I want to, as you can see, there's 3 different rooms here. I want to be able to connect them with doors, and I want these walls to be things which you can interact with physically. So next time I want to be able to show you how the first skill, like how that's gonna work, a boulder that goes through a wall, for instance. That's what I want to be able to show. And I don't know if I'm going to make it. Oh, probably not. I'm probably not gonna make it completely like randomly generated to begin with. First of all, I'm just gonna create a static level where I can just work with these sliders and stuff like that. There's more slides that I didn't show also. For instance, you can have a template here for the small room. I can change everything. I can change, like for instance, how the split chance of these bricks and stuff like that. Everything has a slider essentially. So I can create some variations between rooms and stuff like that. And there's going to be more sliders when there's more assets also added into this. So yeah, that's pretty much the next milestone. Make this room connect with doors, make the walls destructible with physics, and then we'll have an update. Yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. Cool. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Member shout out. Member shout out. Thank everyone so much for watching. A special thank you, of course, to our dear members appearing. Oh, here they are. Blue Dragon, Adam Alexis, Magic Pitman, Simon Lauer, Rodney Cox, Herman M, The Soft Pillow, Snick, Shamanic, Spencer Hofty, Alex Michael, Nathaniel Nissa, The Laces at the Stone, Ericsson234, Jeff Henry leaning into it, Michael W, Pocky U, Matthias Pauli, Topless Investments, Corons 1107, W Lutz 1978, P Label, Peter Gold, Sean Stevens, Gabriel Juvenal, Tandex, Wisa, Q Delated 23, Way, Messamok 1, Ye Old Basses, Dingo Scrub, Crew the Barbarian, Linkus Week, Rainbird 2002, 40k Television, Yulai Moonlight Stark, Draker 2000, Dave Stair, Jurassic Fart, The Swamp King, Rage Not Simple, Human, Badass Ivan Up, John Domyan, Gezusaki, Own 77, Sam Williamson, Ellie Curtis, Noah VH, MC Hermes, Phasix, Fumiaki Kinoshita, Acros Ascending, Jacob, Walker Floran, Damn Drone, Steve Raminsky, Strange Brontides, Donkey Kong, Sky Surfer Zero, Tim Dutton, Jake Denley, Santa John, Steiner Back in the McDuncan Clove, Rob Acuna, Chase Close, John Lacava, III, Honza Cost, Jin Guy, Michael Cupido, Agony Reborn, Ramen Noodles for Me, Nicholas Zanotti, Nethervex, Andrew Blank, Aaron Noble, Adam Alexis, Betsuma, Brandon Dobbs, Callis Dismissed, Colo Balumbo, Chloe Cooper, Coop Cooper, Dan Goodsell, David Hanold, David Newman, DBK Drummer, Dingo Scrub, Dr. Jaden, Drew Stiles, Eventum Tantum, Freeman Stepson, Jeff Georgia, Infinite Draw, Javier Diaz, Kayson Magneto, Mrs. Smith, Neo Terror, Ninja Longnome, Orango Mango, Piotr Stalorsk, Potty, Prince Moke, Bagok, Esquire, Rainbow Cake, Serge Karamarov, Super Noodle 7, Ray, Wonderbread, X Covenant X, Mythic Gaming, Musketeer, Mr. Thule, Tom Cute, Michael, Robert Lewis, Yomasaho, Adam Ruth, Rhett Khan, Butt with Ass, Barbara McKinley, Named Epithet, Dear Lurgov, Stricker Mike, Topher Scott, 7Guy777, Brian Wood, Postal Guru, Anthony Divel, Mentosaurus, Kate Griggs, Rufino A. Oregon, Big Bob MTG, Jack Ryan, Patrick Henning, Liquid E, Ben Jones, Jose de Jesus, Regalado Aguayo, Mark Logalo, Cracker GF, Ian Moss, Michael Capido, Juan Tu Jin, Vince Baudet, Thomas Schutte, Anthony Nixon, Paul Robert Michael Miller, Forsaken AAA, Thanatos, Ninja Azrael, Kupta Grace, and /00815. You guys are amazing! If you also want to become a Dark Disciple and help rule the underworld, then check out the join button next to the subscribe button, or why not check out my Patreon, link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.
Also thank you to the bad shoulders on Patreon and the light zone down there. Thank you.